Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Cobern, and today's episode is the top 5 best quarterbacks in Dynasty Football in 2017. And this is a little bit of a different episode. Some of you guys may be familiar already with these quarterbacks, or I've already talked about them in other videos, but I just wanted to get this video out there into the ether, into the universe, so that you guys know what the analytics say about this quarterback class, so that we can revisit it and critique it or whatever. Or you can leave nasty comments if I'm wrong. That's always fun. Just based on the data. So that's what this list is going to be. It's purely data based. It's not my opinion on who I think are the top 5 quarterbacks as much as what the data thinks are the top 5 quarterbacks. Also kind of taking in landing spot as well into account too. So those are sort of the parameters. In terms of the methodology, we're going to be using 2 main metrics: the high school production metric, which takes into account touchdown to interception ratio, completion percentage, and compares it to every single quarterback since the 2007 NFL draft class. Based on that number, 100% of long-term starting quarterbacks since the 2007 class had at least a high school production score of 69 or higher, and all the Pro Bowl quarterbacks had at least a high school production score of 84 or higher. All the Pro Bowl quarterbacks, like all of them, Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, all those guys, Matt Ryan, all had an 84 or higher high school production score. And then the last thing we're going to look at is the complete QB stat score, which is basically the college production score. It works the same as the high school production score. It looks at touchdown interception ratio, completion percentage, but it adds a layer of strength of schedule to where if you are a quarterback that plays against SEC competition or high-end competition, you're going to get a better score for your production than a guy who, say, plays at Louisiana Tech or MAC or whatever. And that data goes all the way back to the 1958 NFL draft class. And based on those thresholds, it also is fairly clear about what the Pro Bowl outcomes are and what the All-Pro outcomes are in terms of what you need to hit for the complete QB stat score. So all the quarterbacks on this list are going to be measured by how they did on the high school production score and how they did on the college production score. And those two things are going to impact heavily where these quarterbacks are ranked on this list. Some may surprise you, some you may agree with, some you may not. But again, this is purely a data-based list. And now let's get to the list. At number 5, we have Nate Peterman, quarterback out of Pittsburgh, who is now in Buffalo. Based on his high school production, he scored 69.33 out of 100, which hits at least the starter level for high school quarterbacks. And his college production is only 71.87 out of 100 in terms of the complete QB stat score, which doesn't really hit Pro Bowl outcomes or All-Pro outcomes. But here's the big thing with Nate Peterman. When it comes to his high school production and when it comes to his college production, he hits a level of marks to where he could be sort of an average-ish starter at the next level. Don't expect big things. Only thing I know about his situation in Buffalo is that the Buffalo Bills are not quite sure if they want to keep Tyrod Taylor or not. The whole thing is a mess. Don't be surprised, though, if another quarterback comes in and takes Nate Peterman's job, because Nate Peterman really is on like a Chad Henne sort of iceberg, I guess. Like, he's not the strongest quarterback candidate ever, is all I'm trying to say. So don't be surprised if in another year Buffalo drafts another quarterback and they just take Nate Peterman's job because they're just better than him. But at the very least, he is in somewhat of a decent situation right now to where he has the sort of high school production he needs. He has sort of the college production he needs to at least become a long-term starting quarterback. And he's in the best situation to become a starter just because of the lack of starters on that Buffalo team. So we will see what happens, of course, but the reason he's 5 on this list is because he hits all the marks he needs to hit in terms of the high school marks and the college marks, and it will just be a matter of seeing what happens to him long term. I would caution against investing too heavily in him in Dynasty Football because he is a guy that does have a fairly high, not a high bust rate, but at least a marginal bust rate to just be a backup. But there are enough positives here that he could end up becoming a starter, and that's always something you want to get in Dynasty Football. At number 4, we have Nick Mullens. That's right, Nick Mullens, quarterback out of Southern Mississippi. When it comes to his high school production score, he scored 93.49 out of 100. And his complete QB stat score is 69.95 out of 100. When it comes to his high school production score, he hits all the marks for a potential Pro Bowl quarterback. When it comes to his college production score, he doesn't so much hit all the outcomes he needs to hit. But he's in the same boat as Nate Peterman, guys. Like, he's better than Nate Peterman in many ways because he has virtually the same complete QB stat score with a much better high school production score. The situation that he's in right now is on the 49ers. Just to put this into perspective, they did draft C.J. Beathard, but this is actually Nick Mullens compared to C.J. Beathard when it comes to high school production and when it comes to college production. But overall, Nick Mullens has the profile of a guy that could become a potential starting NFL quarterback, guys. So don't ignore him just because he's a UDFA guy. So I know it would be very surprising for Nick Mullens to become a starter in San Francisco. And again, he's another guy like Nate Peterman that's on shaky ground. If another quarterback gets drafted next year, he's done, that has a better overall profile. But at least right now, Nick Mullens is in a very good spot to kind of potentially, because of the competition that he has in front of him, he could potentially become a long-term starter in that type of offense. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Nick Mullens. Again, there's tons of competition there, but there's nobody in San Francisco right now that is just so much better than him. So it'll be a very uphill battle for Nick Mullens to win, to beat Brian Hoyer, to beat, C.J. Beathard, and then also to have to beat Matt Barkley too. So that's a very hard thing, but at least there's enough positives here to show that he should be number 4 in this list. At number 3, we have Patrick Mahomes, quarterback out of Texas Tech, which is basically in Kansas City right now. Based on his high school production, he scored 60.85 out of 100. Unfortunately, that high school production score doesn't hit any of the high-quality outcomes he needs to hit. Doesn't hit the Pro Bowl outcome that's been that way since the 2007 NFL draft class. And there are some questions about that sort of stuff. There is a lot of talent, and basically his complete QB stat score, which is a number that goes all the way back to the 1958 NFL draft class, was 86.83 or higher, which at least hits the Pro Bowl level production marks that you're looking for at the quarterback position. But the bottom line is with Patrick Mahomes, his high school production marks are just not getting it done when it comes to just potential long-term outcomes. He has very good college production, but the high school production just isn't meshing. But he landed in a perfect spot. He's going with Andy Reid. You can't deny the quarterback whisperer sort of stuff of Andy Reid. He's a guy who's worked with many different quarterbacks, from Donovan McNabb to Brett Favre even. And Mahomes does have that type of arm talent on film. But just remember, from a data perspective, that there are some questions when it comes to his high school production. So we'll see what happens with Patrick Mahomes. It'll be very interesting to see where he ends up and how long he happens. But at least from an analytics perspective, he is the 3rd quarterback in this class because his high school production just doesn't hit the marks it needs to hit in terms of Pro Bowl outcomes at the next level. And this will be a very interesting sort of revisit guy. But the bottom line is the data just does not like Patrick Mahomes as a special quarterback at the next level. But we will definitely see what happens in the future when it comes to his profile. At number 2, we have Mitchell Trubisky, quarterback out of North Carolina by way of Chicago Bears. So if you're a Bears fan, you should be happy that he's number 2, or I don't know if you should be happy or not. But based on his high school production, he scored 83.03 out of 100, which almost hits the Pro Bowl threshold. The Pro Bowl threshold when it comes to all the quarterbacks since the 2007 NFL draft class for Pro Bowlers, multiple Pro Bowl players from Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck, all those guys had at least an 84 or higher high school production score. Mitchell Trubisky doesn't hit that area. 83 is still within a margin of error. You could say that he hits at least a level with that you could say that he could be a potential outlier, especially with his complete QB stat score of 90.76 or higher when it comes to his complete QB stat score, which hits at least all-pro level when it comes to that particular metric. So there's positives here. He doesn't quite hit the high school level he needs to hit, but he's only not hitting it by 1 point, and his complete QB stat score is already at all-pro level. The only question mark also with him is just 1 year of starts. That's it. Data doesn't really show too kindly to quarterbacks that have only had 1 year of starting experience. But there are enough positives here that he could become a fairly long-term starting quarterback. Like, he's in a position in Chicago where he is going to be asked to be the guy. And he does have the arm talent and all the other sort of stuff that you want. So I would not be surprised if Mitchell Trubisky becomes a long-term starter in Chicago, which is very, very good value in fantasy football, man. To get a starting quarterback is just, you got to get that starter. So Trubisky has the stuff to be a starter. It's just when it comes to higher outcomes, when it comes to like all-pro outcomes or multiple Pro Bowl outcomes, his data profile is just a little shaky when it comes to those things. So we will see again what happens with Mitchell Trubisky in the future, but the bottom line is that he does have enough positives to suggest a guy that can become a long-term starter, but not necessarily enough things to say that he could become a Pro Bowler or a multiple All-Pro type of quarterback. And you should value him correctly based on those sort of issues. And the number one best quarterback in the 2017 class for Dynasty Football is Deshaun Watson, quarterback out of Clemson for the Houston Texans. Based on his high school production, he scored 95.76 out of 100, which hits all the marks you need to hit in terms of high school production for special quarterback play. And his complete QB stat score is 94.03 out of 100, which hits all pro level marks when it comes to his overall profile. The bottom line is Deshaun Watson is really the only quarterback in this class who hit both the high school marks and the college marks out of the park when it comes to both those metrics. And he fell into a perfect situation. The Houston Texans are a team that has tons of weapons on offense, has a fairly solid offensive line, has a defense that can also help him out a bit as well. Whenever you have a quarterback that has a good defense, there's good things that can happen. On top of running backs as well. Like, there's running backs there to help him out. So the bottom line is Deshaun Watson is in probably the ideal spot for initial success. He's in an ideal spot to be very successful in terms of just his overall profile. He's a guy who also has the athleticism traits of Russell Wilson, and this is actually Russell Wilson's overall athleticism compared to Deshaun Watson. So Watson has enough positives in his profile to also be considered a guy that could become a fairly athletic quarterback. He'd get you some yards with his legs as well. So there's just tons of positives with Watson. He hits all the marks he needs to hit in terms of high school, hits all the marks he needs to hit in terms of college, has good athleticism, has everything that you want. And the bottom line is that he should be considered the top quarterback in Dynasty Football this year because he hits every single thing when it comes to his analytics profile. So again, he's another guy that we'll have to see what happens with him, but the bottom line is that he has all the tools on paper to become a very, very good player, at least a Pro Bowl player, and then we'll just have to see what happens, but just tons of positives to his profile, and that's why he's number one on this list. This concludes the top 5 quarterbacks for Dynasty Football in the 2017 NFL Draft Class. My name is James Cobern. You can find my work at draftcobern.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics, and if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let me know, who do you think are the top 5 best quarterbacks in Dynasty Football this year? Again, this entire list was more so from an analytics perspective, not necessarily just a film perspective, which is a different perspective. I mean, don't kill me for giving you a different perspective, but the bottom line is I just wanted to get this out there so that it's in the ether, it's out there, everybody's pretty clear on how I felt about the guys in the 2017 class, at least from a quarterback perspective, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.